ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जना शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रावजन्तमनुपेत्य अपेत्यकृत्यं रापायनो विरहकातर आजुहावा भूतेति तन्मयतया तर्वो विनेदुस् तं सर्वभूतं हृदयं मुनिमानतस्मै नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। भक्त्या विहीनपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्तश्चकामारीतरङ्गमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नयनं चरणन्दिके पञ्चकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. So, we're going to continue Sri Bhajana Rahasya. Yesterday we heard about Sri Gadadhar Pandit, and today back to Sri Bhajana Rahasya. One more day on this text 1. We begin, as always, offering our obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pada Stotarsat Sri Srimad Abhaya Charadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru Pada Padma Nityalila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pada Stotarsat Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj unto our exalted Rupana Guru Varga, all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So, text 1 of the third chapter was what? Coming into Nishta, right? And so the verse from Sri Siksastaka, Nad api sunichena toror api suhishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya siddhahari, thinking oneself to be even lower and more worthless than insignificant grass that's been trampled beneath everyone's feet, being more tolerant than a tree, being prideless, and offering respect to everyone according to their respective positions, one should continuously chant the holy name of Sri Hari. Right? So, we have heard the commentaries of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. We heard the commentary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And now we're going to hear the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada. I wanted to really drill this in, right? Because this is such a foundational verse. I mean, this is the gateway to our understanding how to really enter into chanting. Not just the activity of chanting, but the deep mood that has to accompany it. So, this commentary is entitled Vivriti. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, by his constitutional nature, the jiva is an eternal servant of Krishna. Therefore, whether residing in this world or in the spiritual world, the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna is the eternal occupational duty of the living entity. The holy name is both the means of attainment, upaya, as well as the object to be obtained, upeya, both for self-fulfillment and for rendering benefit to others. Both self-fulfillment, rendering benefit to others. You can't separate those two. Remember, because hearing the quality of compassion here, that quality is meant to benefit others, but it's also a quality that the self-fulfilled have naturally, right? Nothing else can compare with it. Nothing else can compare with it. By the chanting of the holy name, all types of auspiciousness arise, both for oneself and for others. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of his mercy upon the living entity, composed the verse, Turnad api sunichena, in order to describe how the jivas may chant the holy name free from nam aparad and nam abas, both. Nam abas as well. We should not be content with nam abas, even though it is very powerful and can accomplish so much through it. We should not remain on that platform. And Mahaprabhu himself composed this verse. This is Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his own instruction on how to learn how to chant properly. So how can we not but attempt to enter into this very deeply? I don't do questions because they can't hear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not ignoring your question. It's just that they go, oh, what's going on? So those who have no inclination at heart to serve Krishna and who are intoxicated with material enjoyment can never acknowledge their insignificance. Ikes! I don't have any inclination at heart. Just tiny bit, just the most shadow of inclination, right? And definitely still intoxicated. What does intoxicated mean? Distracted, allured by that, overwhelmed and confused, bewildered by material enjoyment until you can't acknowledge your insignificance. And without acknowledging insignificance, how can you become humble? Right? Tell this story sometimes. It's so fitting. When one very nice godbrother, in his enthusiasm, came to Srila Prabhupada, and he was so happy. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, I feel like I'm making advancement. I feel like I'm 50% devotee. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, 50% devotee means 50% demon. Right? And another time, in the same vein, another godbrother, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I'm so insignificant. No, I'm so fallen. I'm the most fallen. I'm the most fallen of all. Feeling like that. And Srila Prabhupada said, no, you're not the most fallen. You're not the most or least of anything. You're just insignificant. All right. That's reality. That's not an insult. It's just reality. When you think about the grandeur of creation, forget the spiritual creation. That's completely beyond our conception. But this material creation is described as unlimited numbers of universes. Even the scope of this universe is absolutely incomprehensible to us. And the number of living entities within the universe, the number of living entities within this planet, what do we think? We think 8 billion? No, that's just humans. That doesn't include all the animals, doesn't include all the insects, all the fish, and then you start getting down to bacteria and microbes, even within, the area of the lawn out there, uncountable numbers of living entities, all conditioned. And this is just one part of one very small planet in one very small universe, in a collection of universes like a giant bag of mustard seeds. Each universe is like a mustard seed. So how insignificant. We can't even scale that down to understand how insignificant we are. And yet, we're created by the Lord. He loves us. He wants us. Right? But we have to accept that our tiny, tiny nature. And our significance lies in the fact that Krishna loves us. Srimati Radhika loves us. They want us to go to Goloka Vrindavan. But in terms of our importance in the grand scale of things, what are we? We're nothing. We're nothing. Insignificance doesn't mean meaningless. We have meaning, but we're just so tiny, tiny. So such recognition is foreign to the functional makeup of the hedonists. What's a hedonist? Hedonist is somebody who's just like completely distracted, absorbed, and singularly pointed towards unrestricted material enjoyment, right? That's the nature of Kali Yuga, getting worse and worse. So, recognition of our insignificance, foreign to the functional makeup, because our functional makeup is that we're covered by false ego, which makes us think that we are the most important thing. Everybody thinks they're most important, right? Their own pleasure, their own happiness, that's the goal, that's what we strive for. And tolerance is also absent from their character, right? The hedonists can never give up their false ego and material prestige. No material sense enjoyer is inclined to offer respect to another material sense enjoyer. Their nature is to be envious of one another. The only time they do offer respect to one another is when they're acknowledging the kind of their mutual arrival and self-importance. Years ago, I went with my sister. She lives on the North Shore of Long Island. And they have friends from their church who are very wealthy people. That's the old Gold Coast. They're not wealthy, but they're. And one of them was the former Commodore of the Sewanaka Yacht Club, the second oldest yacht club in America. The first one is New York Yacht Club, but they needed some place to go to, all these rich guys in New York. So they all had these giant mansions on Long Island on the Gold Coast, so they made a yacht club so they could all go there. And the club, still there, they got their own big harbor, they got their clubhouse, all that there. And the guy, he was one of these guys, and he was the former Commodore, he'd retired now. But we went to the yacht club as his guests, right? And we're sitting around outside on this, opulent, spacious lawn. And I said, "Hey, Bill, what's it cost to be a member of this yacht club?" And he says, "Well, you have to pay an initial fee." I forget what he said, but it's like $25,000 a year, that's your dues, right? A couple thousand a month. And I thought about it, and then I looked around, and I just saw these guys, and families and all, and what are they getting out of it? They're not on their boats, or they're, you could rent a space cheaper than that, but I realized that what they got out of it is mingling amongst people that recognize, you're one of us. Hey, we're part of this elite club. They fulfilled each other's sense and of the need for recognition, pratishtha. It's one thing to have money, but you want people to know you have money and give you, acknowledgement and praise and respect for it. So they'll give respect, but it's got to be mutual, right? Hey, another club member. Yeah, you're one of us. Otherwise, they're not inclined to offer respect to another material sense enjoyer because they're competing. Envy. Envy is that unfortunate force that causes all the unhappiness in this world. Like for instance, right now, in the modern age, any Western country, right? Your average citizen lives better than a king from 150 years ago. They had no running water, they had no electricity, they had no indoor heat, they had no plumbing, they had no cars, no planes, all these things. The kind of food you have, everything, what you have accessible to you now, even people living in poor parts of the city or any poor part of the country, they have a higher standard of living than anybody 150 years ago. Right? And if you had that 150 years ago, you'd be so happy. But why aren't they happy now? Because they're seeing somebody else has a higher standard of living, and they're envious. Oh, you may be very happy. You've got, nice shelter. You can stay warm in the winter. You don't have to go out and chop wood just to survive, try and kill some animal. You're not struggling for survival like that. But because you see somebody else have something better, nicer car, nicer house, better clothes, better reputation, whatever it is, you think, oh, I'm oppressed. I'm so unhappy. This is such an unfortunate condition. And that envy is what creates the strife and the anxiety in the world. Class envy, differences between class, between race, between religion, economic status, whatever it is, the people that control, they just try to inflame the sense of difference so that people will fight and be envious. Otherwise, there's plenty for everybody. Everyone get along. Why should you be envious of somebody else? There's always differences in attainment. If people knew simple philosophy, why do you have difference of attainment? Well, in their past life, they did something to achieve that. You didn't. In this life, do something. Be happy. Worship God. Live a simple, happy life. You can actually be happier than that wealthy person if you realize who you are, your relationship with the Lord. So he says, no material sense enjoyer is inclined to offer respect to another enjoyer. Their nature is to be envious of one another. And as long as you're envious, as long as there's not that amani na amana dana, you're not going to be happy, no matter what you have. On the other hand, the Vaishnavas, who are forever dedicated to the worship of the holy name, are even humbler than a blade of grass. They're more tolerant than a tree. And while maintaining indifference towards their own prestige, they are always eager to offer respect to others. In this material world, they alone are competent and able to chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And when you read Jaiva Dharma, you get a sense of the natural humility of devotees. Jaiva Dharma imparts these philosophical conceptions through a narrative, a story of different Vaishnavas, of different levels of eligibility, different people coming to Vaishnavism. And in that, they interact with different kinds of great personalities. And you see how these personalities treat others. And they will offer respect, obviously, amongst the community of Vaishnavas, according to that, but even according to their status in ordinary society. Oh, you are Brahmanas. Oh, you are the king over there. You're the Muslim, but you're the king. Whatever it is, they're always finding some way to offer respect to others. Because ultimately they see, even though we're insignificant, they see the spiritual identity of everyone. They see Paramatma in the heart of every living entity. And so they're very happy to offer respect. The respect that pure Vaishnavas offer to their respective spiritual masters and other Vaishnavas is inspired by their innate propensity to honor others. This is known as Swabhavika Manada Dharma. Vaishnavas have an innate tendency to offer respect to others. And see, sometimes this is one of the dangers that when you live in a Vaishnava community, like you develop an institution, a society of Vaishnavas, there may be a social hierarchy that develops, amongst people that manage, people that organize, different roles, right? And so hierarchies, and the natural tendency in hierarchy is that the higher you climb on that ladder, the innate propensity to want respect and honor from others, that's the material mentality, that comes up, right? And that is an impediment to one's natural advancement and to the, to the harmony of a community and to the ability of that community to offer what we're really all seeking, which is example in spiritual life, how to live it, how to act. If those very persons who are up here on the hierarchy are not developing this quality, then the essential community is not evolving in the appropriate way. See? Vaishnavas have the innate propensity to honor others. This is known as Svabhavika Manada Dharma. In order to enthuse their followers or dependents in bhajan, pure devotees display affection and encouragement towards them. This is done out of their natural pridelessness. They have no problem encouraging and helping uplift others. They take great joy in it. This is known as amani swabhav. In other words, the respect, honor, and affection that such devotees offer is due to the innate feeling of the heart. Pure devotees do not consider such affectionate words of appreciation to be cheap material flattery. Furthermore, by tolerating the taunting remarks of the foolish, they exhibit their quality of forbearance. Right, so they're not offering these things this as a means to control others. This is one of the techniques in the tendency of materialists. They'll control others by giving them flattery, right? The narcissist, right? It's one of the tools of the narcissist. One of the tools of the psychopath, the sociopath. They know how to manipulate people by emotional flattery. They pretend to be your friend, to give you praise, and you feel very inflated and happy in their presence. And then they begin to control you by that, right? It's not this kind of cheap flattery. It's affection born of genuine love and for your welfare. So sometimes there may be flattery and sometimes there may be chastisement, but both out of love and out of concern for your welfare. And if a materialistic person is insulting or degrading towards them, they just tolerate. What does it matter to me that such a person is speaking in that way? Right? Srila Prabhupada had, the dogs may bark, but the caravan marches on. The elephant or camel caravan marches on. What are they concerned about the insignificant barking of a dog? Right? Jai Shri Shri Radha Raman, Jai Jai Shri Shri Mati Lalita Vishaka, Rupa Manjari Rati Manjari, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev Jai. Pure devotees constantly engaged in chanting the holy name consider themselves to be even lower than the straw in the street that is trampled beneath the feet of all living entities in this world. They never think of themselves as gurus or Vaishnavas. They consider themselves to be disciples of the entire world and the most fallen and insignificant of all. That's a very telling statement, because there are many Vaishnavas who are in the role of guru or senior Vaishnava, but they don't have the abhiman or self-conception that I'm a guru. They have the self-conception that I am a servant of my guru, and all of our Guru Varga, our Guru Parampara, and I may be taking on this service to help link others, but they even feel themselves to be the servant of their own disciples. More than one time you can hear lectures of Srila Prabhupada offering great honor and gratitude and thanks to his own disciples for helping him to push on the mission of his spiritual master. He sees them coming to assist him. And he even says that my Guru Maharaj has surely sent you to assist me. He had such affection for his disciples and even humility towards them. And so even if he would chastise them, underlying this is this extraordinary quality of a Vaishnava, this humility. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj also had that. He was so imbued with humility. From the very first time I met him, I saw that. When he greeted me in such a soft way, I am so pleased to meet you. Because he came, he said he wanted to meet the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And then he also wanted to help them. But he wanted to meet them because he felt the need to offer them respect. And then I remember one time in particular, I'll never forget this. I can't remember even where we were. I just remember walking into a room to be with him for something. And he greeted me, he wanted to tell me something. And he says, "Oh, Maharaj." And he spoke it in such a soft and respectful way, that title, right? Maharaj. And I was overcome because I could immediately feel his mood. It was one of respect. And where did I get the title? He gave me the title. He initiated me into sannyas. And yet, when he spoke that, it was with such incredible humility. I felt so humbled myself immediately and unworthy, right? But for him, it's so natural. So natural. And then on the other hand, he might just yell at me for something, "Oh, you nonsense," which I liked even more. Then I became really happy. I would smile and I don't know if that annoyed him more, He chastised me, and I'd smile and become happy. Joy. So they never think of themselves as gurus or Vaishnavas. They consider themselves to be disciples of the entire world and the most fallen and insignificant of all. Knowing every atom and every infinitesimal living entity to be the residents of Sri Krishna, they do not consider anything to be inferior to themselves. It's impossible for me to understand that mentality. Such a great person, an eternal associate of Radha and Krishna, serving in the kunjas of Vrindavan, to have that mentality, but somehow they do. Devotees absorbed in chanting the holy name never desire nor request anything for themselves from anyone else in this world. Even if others bear malice towards them or commit violence against them, they never retaliate nor adopt a vengeful attitude. On the contrary, they pray to the Lord for the welfare of their tormentors. And that I have seen. I have seen that in the activities of Srila Narayan Maharaj and some of these extraordinary associates, very high quality Vaishnavas, that incredible tolerance. Because in the world and even in the community of those who are trying to follow Mahaprabhu and preach his message, amongst many practitioners who have not come to this platform, there's still conflict and envy. And they'll direct it towards other high-class devotees. To high-class devotees, not other high-class devotees, because they're not high-class. Otherwise, it wouldn't act like that. But they criticize, they thwart, they create obstacles. But these exalted devotees have a very different mood. They look on these kind of persons like little children. A parent doesn't become upset over the childishness of an immature person, right? They know that's part of the process. At some point, they may become very stern and correct them and even punish them, but in their heart, they're always very soft and seeking the welfare and benefit of that child. And so this is the mood, the inherent mood of great devotees. It comes with knowledge. It comes with realization. However, even if we don't have that realization yet, we can strive to cultivate this mentality. We have to, because until we do, there's no kirtaniya sadahari. There's no constant chanting of the pure name of the Lord until we imbibe these qualities. The devotees who chant the holy name, adorned with the above-mentioned qualities, never abandon the devotional process received from their spiritual master in order to propagate new and divergent views. Don't try to step outside the line, the lane that your guru has established for you. Stay in your own lane, right? Don't think that you're more clever, more intelligent, that you can rewrite your guru's books. He shouldn't have said this. This will not be accepted by the people in general. We have to write it in such a way that people will appreciate and understand it. He set up our temples like this. This is not what we should do. No. Don't try to change. Always keep the same wine. The bottles may change a little bit, but what's in the bottles should never change. See, sometimes people don't understand. Srila Prabhupada was one of the great, what Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada called unconventional teachers, in that they could create innovative ways to teach bhakti, to teach Krishna consciousness. But they never strayed from the practice and from the principles of pure bhakti. But they were unconventional in the sense that, like when Srila Prabhupada came, he didn't establish bhakti within the framework of varnashram, or even within the framework of a traditional Gaudiya Mat that Sarasvati Prabhupada had created. Because the conditions and the people and the culture that he was preaching within required something different. Right? And some people didn't understand that. Many people didn't understand it. And he was the object of a lot of criticism for many, many years. Later, when many of those same people that had misunderstood him came to the West themselves, almost universally they said, oh my goodness, I could never have understood what it was he was coming to, what environment he was preaching in. Now I understand what he was doing and why he was doing it. Even people that were favorable to him, but may have had some question, once they got here, oh my goodness, what he's accomplished, what he's done, right? So, but he never abandoned the straight line, the strict line of what? What we're hearing here, this principle of what it means to be a devotee. Trinada api sunichena, tador api suhishnana, amanina manadena, kirtaniya siddhahari. They do not fabricate concocted verses and chant those in place of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Nope, he did not do that. To preach the glories of the holy name, to write books based on unalloyed devotion, and to perform kirtan, all under the guidance of the spiritual master, is not opposed to the principle of Vaishnava humility. In such activities, there is no transgression of humility, for the devotee always considers himself to be low and fallen. Conversely, a false display of humility through speech or behavior to deceive others for some ulterior motive in one who is lacking genuine simplicity is not the true sign of humility. Many people can act humble, right? Especially when they're being honored and served as spiritual authorities or guru. If everyone's falling at your feet, giving you this and giving you that and worshiping you, it's very easy to go, oh, yes, because nobody disobeys you, nobody dares to challenge you, right? Oh, you're so great, oh. But behind closed doors, if something happens and then all of a sudden they become very angry or do something inappropriate, but he's saying that in the mood of service to Sri Guru and the mission of Mahaprabhu, a devotee can take on this magnificent role and write books and establish institutions and even become the head of the institution and accept the title of Acharya, or even as our Srila Prabhupada, take that title for the purpose of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, not for oneself. Srila Prabhupada was challenged about that because his senior godbrothers had a pact that no one in their society would take on the title of Prabhupada, right? Just like after our Srila Prabhupada left, his senior devotees that decided to become gurus, none of them took that title out of respect for him. But when our Srila Prabhupada came to the West, his disciples wanted to call him that, and he accepted it. But he had never heard about this decision that the others had made. And so he met with them and they questioned him about it. And he said, well, I had never heard that you had made that agreement, but let me share something. When my disciples call me Prabhupada, the one meaning is that the one at whose all the Prabhus sit. In other words, he's the master of all the masters. Right? He's the person at whom all the Prabhus, they sit at his lotus feet. Right? That's one meaning of it. He said, when I think of that name, I think of it, whenever they chant it, I think of myself at the feet of my Prabhu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada. So when I hear them chant that name in reference to me, I always think of myself at the feet of my spiritual master. So he accepted position, honor, even wealth. His disciples would give him watches and jewelry and all kinds of things. He was very detached about it all, divesting himself of it. Whenever he's given a watch, he'd take the other one off and give it to somebody. He had some rings, take one off, give it to another. He accepted it because it was offered by his disciples. But he's never attached to any of it. He wrote a letter once to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj explaining all the service that was being offered to him by all these servants. And he said, but I'm thinking of Sri Vrindavan and the torn quilt of the Gaudiya Mat, reflecting on his time at Radha Damodar in the most humble of conditions. He didn't even have a chadar, and his clothing was old and torn. And yet the mood and the happiness that he experienced at that time in Vrindavan, in his service of writing and in the association of so many great Vaishnavas, that's what he was remembering and hankering for. But in order to satisfy his spiritual master, he accepted the burden of being a universal acharya. The topmost devotees of the Lord, the Uttam Mahabhagavats, while engaged in chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna, never consider the moving and stationary entities within this material world to be items for their own enjoyment. Rather, they see this entire material world as favorable for the service of Krishna and the devotees of Krishna. In other words, they see everything in this world as related to Krishna. And they see all moving entities as servants of Krishna, and all non-moving entities as enjoyable by Krishna. So, seeing everything in relationship to Krishna and having that mood themselves, they're never thinking that this is mine to enjoy. This is mine to employ in the service of Krishna. And this material condition is not for me to fight against. Everything that is in this world, I see as favorable for the service of Krishna. Even the obstacles that we have to endure, what are they for? They're teaching. They're helping us to gather our strength, become more surrendered, learn a lesson of how to preach or do something better. Everything is arranged by the Lord. Not a blade of grass moves except by the will of the Lord. So I don't see anything as unfavorable. That's what they're thinking. I'm always trying to think and see the hand of the Lord in this. And everything I see, I'm thinking, this is Krishna's. That story of Srila Prabhupada taking the morning walk in some suburb, early in the morning, and somebody left their water tap on in their lawn. American houses, big lawn, watering taps, and it was just running over the lawn down into the street. And Srila Prabhupada walked up and turned it off. And he said, this is Krishna's energy. It should not be wasted. Right? They never think that this material world to be for their enjoyment, but for Krishna's enjoyment. They never invent new mantras, giving up the chanting of the Maha Mantra that they obtained from their spiritual master. They do not engage in propagating new theories and opinions. To regard oneself as a guru of Vaishnavas is an impediment to one's humility. Right? Once you begin to see that and become concerned about identity as guru, and are people treating me properly as guru? Are they not seeing me? This is my service, I'm the guru, right? But if you become absorbed in that abhiman, that self-conception of guru, then the pratishta that goes along with it will come into your heart and mislead you, right? Guru is really the greatest servant of the Vaishnavas. That's how gurus feel themselves. You know, when you really see an advanced Vaishnava, their humility is just emanating, and it's always there. And even when they're in the midst of receiving respect and honor, even their feet being bathed or nice things offered to them, their humility is not disturbed because they're seeing, I'm simply the transparent via media. This is not for me. This is for my guru. This is for Radha and Krishna. But when you begin to think, I'm a guru, and there's a distinction. There is a distinction in that, and you can see it subtly if you're perceptive. To regard oneself as guru of Vaishnavas is an impediment to one's humility. Those who do not listen to the instructions of Siksastaka set forth by Sri Gaurasundar, who are forgetful of their actual spiritual identity, who are greedy for prestige and material gain, and who are thus anxious to obtain the status of Vaishnava or Guru to satisfy their senses, can never chant the holy name of the Lord. A disciple who has, now that doesn't mean we should go around trying to analyze, hey, look how puffed up that guy is. Oh, look at that guy. He's not, No. That's not our mentality. Also, remember, whatever's going on in the mind and heart of another, what's going on in my heart and mind? Amanina manadena. I'm not seeking respect, and I'm offering respects to others. I am lower than the straw on the street. I'm insignificant, right? I'm tolerant, right? Whatever's going on with others, let that be, right? A disciple who has faith in the kirtan performances of such persons, right, the so-called innovators, the people who want to create to appeal to the masses or for whatever purpose, if you have faith in the kirtan performances of such persons, you also cannot obtain qualification for hearing the holy name. Right. Let's do rap. Right? Let's do Hare Krishna rap. Don't do Hare Krishna rap. You know what Srila Prabhupada said about that? Back in the day, there was a time when devotees started doing rock bands. And there even was one big group traveling, the Hare Krishna rock opera. Because back in the day, there was a period of time when some big groups started writing a whole story, and each song was part of the story, and it was very popular, right? Some groups did that. And so the devotees, they wrote a story, and it was told in song. And at first the songs were kind of simple and folky, and it was, yeah, okay. And Srila Prabhupada, he I don't know how much he appreciated, but he tolerated this to see. But then it wasn't long before they got big amplifiers and, big tie-dye tarps and giant speakers and wah-wah pedals and, and all their samskars of being rock and roll musicians, which they had been, start coming out. And Srila Prabhupada said, the problem with this kind of music, it will attract people, but for the wrong reasons. and they'll come for a short time and then they'll leave. Right? So if you abandon the simple and pure chanting of the holy name, then they'll come for the wrong reasons and the whole movement will be polluted. Right? There was another devotee who went to college campuses, but his whole thing is he had Indian instruments, harmonium, sarod, things like that, and devotees learned them in a very rudimentary way, but they sang traditional kirtan tunes. And they go to college campuses and to temples, and they attract a lot of people, and those people stayed, right? They stayed for the most part. They didn't have the same kind of effect. It wasn't this tamagun-generated kind of music and energy. It was very light and happy and energetic, according to our level at that time. Therefore, one should chant the holy name of the Lord while considering oneself lower than the straw in the street, being more tolerant than a tree, devoid of false prestige, and offering all respects to others. Right. So generally, we're striving to create a culture where we can learn to chant the holy name in the way of Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shamananda, who spread the kirtan of Mahaprabhu to different parts of India, wrote songs and melodies, but were very powerful transcendental melodies. Right? I saw there was this one interview on this Namras podcast. He interviews all kinds of people, this Namras, and he was interviewing these Mayapuris. And this is a group of devotees who have been chanting for, 20 years? Since they were teenagers, Gurukulis in Mayapur. And they have different kinds of presentation. And I was listening to the devotee explain what their intent is, right? That some people don't know all the more complex tunes, the more evolved kind of kirtan, so they chant in a simpler way that will accommodate them. But they don't get into all kinds of concocted tunes or concocted beats or concocted mantras. But they present according to the eligibility, like Srila Prabhupada did. It was very interesting to hear them talk and hear their realizations after 20 years of doing this, or 25. I don't know how long they've been doing it now. You know, very, very interesting. They have a very sober and appropriate way of trying to share the power of this holy name and the chanting of the holy name. So that's the commentary of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Prabhupada. Very, very wonderful. Very wonderful, and completely in line with, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. His commentary was a synthesis of these points that we've heard. So we'll stop here, and tomorrow we'll continue with verse 2 of Bhajana Rahasya. This was Turnadapi, Sunichena, Turapi, Sahishnana, Amanina, Manadena, Kirtaniya Siddhahari. Wear that verse like a garland around your neck. That's what Mahaprabhu said. And always keep it close to your heart. So, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev, all of our Guru Parampara, all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. Now we'll worship our Guru, Sri Guru Puja, and Tulsi Devi for this month of Vaishak. Gaur Premanande Haribol.